Imagine finding an ancient script carved thousands of years ago, so cryptic that generations of scholars have tried and failed to unravel its meaning. Now, picture an AI working tirelessly, decoding symbol by symbol, until it exposes a warning we were never meant to read. What forgotten truths about humanity, or perhaps our future, were inscribed in those symbols? And why are some experts saying it should have remained a mystery? Not long ago, AI systems achieved what was once unthinkable, mapping ancient proto-writing in the Indus Valley and deciphering fragments lost for millennia. Yet some puzzles have resisted even the most advanced technology. The story of one such language begins with lines and symbols that have haunted archaeologists for centuries. Their secrets waiting in silence. The undecipherable puzzle of ancient history. Throughout history, the challenge of deciphering ancient scripts has stood as one of humanity's most enduring puzzles. Languages lost to time, etched into clay, carved into stone, or inked onto brittle parchment, have resisted every attempt to bring their voices back. These undeciphered texts are not just relics, they are the unbroken codes of entire civilizations. Their silence has left us with gaps in our understanding about who these people were, how they lived, and what they believed. Even as archaeologists and conservators work carefully to preserve each fragment, the meanings remain out of reach. Among the most famous of these mysteries is Linear A, the script of the Minoan civilization. Unlike Linear B, which yielded to human effort after decades of meticulous study, Linear A has refused to surrender its secrets, even now with the help of artificial intelligence. Recent machine learning analysis have mapped patterns in Linear A tablets, but the underlying language remains stubbornly unknown. The Vinca symbols, found on artifacts across southeastern Europe, present a similar enigma. Once dismissed as decorative, these marks have been shown by AI to follow a structured syntax, suggesting a system of communication that could rewrite our understanding of early writing. Then there is the Voynich manuscript, a 600-year-old illustrated volume written in a language that has confused every scholar and codebreaker. AI has begun to identify patterns within its pages, hinting at possible connections to encoded Hebrew. But the text continues to elude complete translation. Each of these cases highlights a central truth. Some languages resist not only the tools of the past, but also the most advanced technologies of the present. Scholars hunt patterns, seek bilingual texts like Rosetta Stone, but this language offers no Rosetta Stone and no known linguistic relatives. With no bilingual inscriptions, no surviving descendants, and no clear point of reference, the task becomes almost impossible. The frustration is palpable. Years and even lifetimes spent tracing symbols, cataloging fragments, and testing theories, only to encounter the same unyielding silence. Yet the allure of these undeciphered scripts remains. They represent the hope that somewhere within them lies a story waiting to be told, a story that could reshape our understanding of history. The limitations of traditional scholarship are stark. Intuition and experience can only go so far when faced with symbols that have no recognizable counterparts. When the familiar patterns of language break down, human instinct is left with little to grasp. The absence of context, the lack of cultural links, and the sheer strangeness of the script create a barrier that seems insurmountable. For decades, These texts have been archived and labeled unsolvable, their secrets locked away by the passage of time. But new tools have begun to change the landscape. Artificial intelligence, with its ability to process and analyze vast amounts of data, has started to make breakthroughs where human expertise faltered. In the case of the Indus Valley script, for example, AI analysis has revealed structured syntax hidden within its terse inscriptions, patterns that had previously escaped notice. Projects like Google's Ithaca have demonstrated how neural networks can reconstruct damaged ancient Greek texts, predicting missing words, and even estimate the date and origin of inscriptions. These advances are not just theoretical, they offer a new approach, one that is systematic, tireless, and unclouded by personal bias. When applied to an undeciphered language, AI brings a different kind of focus. Instead of relying on a lucky discovery or a rare bilingual artifact, it compares the unknown script to the structures of known languages, searching for statistical similarities and recurring patterns. It can reconstruct missing fragments, test hypotheses at speeds no human team could match, and identify connections that would otherwise remain invisible. This isn't the work of millions of scholars, but it does more in months than decades of human scholarship. The once static symbols begin to shift, patterns emerge, and the possibility of meaning grows stronger. Imagine a moment when, after months of analysis, the AI produces its first tentative translation. 3 words. They were warned. This phrase, generated through pattern matching, much like the methods used by the Ithaca project to fill gaps in Greek inscriptions, feels both ambiguous and deeply human. Scholars examine it closely, aware that it is only the beginning. The AI continues assembling fragments into new phrases. The ruins speak. The words don't fit perfectly into any known grammar, yet they carry a weight it is hard to ignore. With each new phrase, the sense of anticipation grows. The translations are not just academic curiosities. They hint at a worldview, a message that seems to reach across time. The text is not ceremonial or mundane, but charged with warning and intent. As the AI pushes further, the discoveries begin to unsettle the scholars. The technology that once promised only knowledge now seems poised to reveal something deeper, something that might have been left hidden for a reason. What if a machine could think like a scholar, but push past human limits? No distractions, no fatigue, no personal bias, just relentless focus. The relentless precision of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence now occupies a central role in the search for lost meanings. Its relentless precision is reshaping how we approach the undecipherable, not by intuition or tradition, but by processing the smallest details at a scale no human could match. AI converts each curve and stroke into data, runs it against vast linguistic databases, then refines its guesses faster than any human could. The result is a system that moves beyond the limitations of memory or fatigue, scanning for structure and meaning, where others saw only chaos. The Google DeepMind's Ithaca project is a striking example. By reconstructing missing letters in Hellenistic inscriptions with over 90% accuracy, Ithaca has revived political decrees, sacred rituals, and even records of personal vendettas. What once took teams of epographers decades now emerges in days in another corner of the world. The Fragmentarium Project at Ludwig Maximilians University has brought Babylon's forgotten hymn back to life, piecing together 22,000 clay fragments into a coherent whole. These are not isolated triumphs. They point to a new capability. AI is not just translating words, but reconstructing the emotional and cultural landscapes of lost civilizations. This same approach was applied to the language at the heart of our story. Specialists fed the AI every surviving fragment, glyphs pressed into clay, faint etchings on stone, inscriptions nearly erased by time. These symbols lacked recognizable stems or repeats, offering no obvious link to known writing systems. For centuries, scholars had combed through them, hoping to find subject-verb chains, familiar numerals, or echoes of ancient tongues, but found nothing that held. The AI, undeterred, began with the basics, searching for recurring structures, however slight, then testing those patterns against every known script from across the world. Some features faintly echoed proto-writing from Mesopotamia. Others suggested the geometry of Vinca artifacts. Most, though, remained ambiguous, blurred by erosion and centuries of silence. What overwhelmed human researchers became a field of probabilities for the machine. AI's pattern recognition did not pause at the obvious. As the system ran through iteration after iteration, symbols that had always been isolated began to cluster. Recurring shapes, subtle spacing, and elusive repetitions formed the foundation for new hypotheses. The more data the AI processed, the stronger its predictions became. It reconstructed missing segments through statistical relationships, much as it had with Babylonian tablets and Greek inscriptions. The fragments, once scattered and mute, began to form phrases. It was here that the first unsettling translations appeared. Early outputs were little more than single words: stars, warning, cycle. On their own, they seemed harmless. But as the AI's algorithms refined their guesses and the database of possible meanings grew, these words began to appear together in patterns that felt deliberate. Encouraged by these connections, researchers directed the AI to focus on longer sequences. Soon, sentences emerged, cryptic but unmistakably coherent. One phrase stood out: "They who sought the heavens invited ruin." The words were spare, yet they carried a weight that was hard to dismiss. Was this a reference to ancient cosmology, the fascination with celestial cycles that echoed through the Babylonian omens and Mayan glyphs? Or was it something more, a record of disaster, a warning encoded for those willing to listen? The AI pressed on with each new phrase. The sense of unease grew. The translations did not resemble ceremonial language or mundane records. Instead, they hinted at themes of catastrophe, cycles, and cosmic forces. Scholars compared these findings to other ancient texts, Babylonian prophecies, Maya inscriptions, even fragments from Linear A. Each comparison deepened the sense that this language was not just a record of daily life, but a vehicle for warnings meant to outlast generations. As more phrases surfaced, the AI's progress became impossible to ignore. The system pieced together fragments faster and with more confidence, reconstructing not just the words, but the worldview behind them. The language began to feel less like a relic and more like a message that seemed to anticipate discovery, as if it had waited for a time when its meaning could finally be revealed. With the AI's tireless focus, the script transformed from a silent puzzle into a voice that reached across centuries. Each new word brought the story closer to something that felt both ancient and urgent. The scholars realized that what they were reading was no longer just a matter of historical curiosity. The boundaries between past and present began to blur, and the implications of these translations pressed in with an intensity that was hard to ignore. With each phrase the AI revealed, the sense of mystery deepened. The fragments were no longer simply echoes of an extinct language. They were the beginning of a story that seemed to grow darker, more insistent, and impossible to dismiss. What humanity was never meant to know. The nature of what emerged from the AI's translations shifted the tone in the research room. The warnings embedded in the script were not generic or ceremonial. They echoed with a sense of urgency that felt both ancient and direct. The stars warned them. Cycles will repeat. The Watchers betrayed the trust. These phrases did not describe routine events or prayers for a good harvest. They resembled a celestial warning found on Maya temple glyphs, decoded in recent years through AI-driven comparative studies, which also wove astronomical omens into their prophecies. The sense was unmistakable. These were messages composed under the shadow of disaster, intended for those who might come after. Patterns emerged as the AI mapped these warnings against the backdrop of other civilizations. In Babylon, cuneiform tablets once guided kings through the chaos of eclipses and omens, their prophecies now reassembled by machine, learning to reveal fears of floods and cosmic upheaval. The Maya, obsessed with time and fate, carved predictions of celestial disorder into their temples, linking the rise and fall of dynasties to the movements of stars. Even the oracle bones of ancient China, recently analyzed by AI systems that measured the pressure of each carved stroke, revealed prophecies about floods and eclipses, urgent questions about survival, inscribed into the earliest layers of written language. These parallels made the script's decoded themes feel less like isolated warnings and more like a chorus of humanity's oldest anxieties about the sky and the unknown. Yet the language in question struck a different note. It did not plead for mercy or guidance. Instead, it spoke with a calm certainty, as if disaster was not just possible, but inevitable. The AI pulled phrases such as "the sky swallowed the light" and "water rose to unmake the work of men." But these were not requests for intervention. They read as statements of fact, declarations left for those who might uncover them long after the original authors were gone. The tone suggested the writers were not just recording what happened, but issuing a warning for the future. As the AI reconstructed longer passages, the sense of intent behind the words became more pronounced. The fragments began to form a narrative, one that did not focus on a single event, but on cycles and betrayals that seemed to transcend any one culture. The phrase, "the wise will not seek to hear," the bridges to the stars were severed to keep watchers blind. They who return this knowledge will touch ruin themselves, marked a turning point. Some scholars suggest this metaphor ties to the Vinca culture's star map seals, recently mapped by machine learning, hinting at ritual knowledge lost for millennia. The implication was unsettling. The knowledge preserved in these symbols was not simply lost, but hidden on purpose. Debate grew among the researchers. Was this a record of a civilization's downfall or a deliberate attempt to bury dangerous knowledge? The warnings did not reference kings or gods, but instead spoke of bridges to stars and watchers who failed in their trust. The ambiguity of the watchers, whether they were priests, astronomers, or something altogether different, left the academics cautious. Each new phrase added to the sense that this script was not just a historical relic, but a message left for any who might rediscover it. The AI, indifferent to the implications, continued its work. The scholars, however, found themselves wrestling with the consequences of their discovery. The more coherent the translations became, the more they wondered if some truths were meant to remain hidden. The idea that they who return this knowledge will touch ruin themselves lingered in the room, impossible to dismiss. Some began to question whether unveiling these warnings might reshape our view of history and perhaps our future. The story that emerged was not just about ancient fears or forgotten disasters. It was about the responsibility that comes with knowledge, especially when that knowledge was once intentionally concealed. As the AI pressed on, the boundary between curiosity and caution blurred. The researchers faced a choice: continue searching for answers, or recognize some mysteries might carry a price. This tension between revelation and restraint remained unresolved as the project moved forward. The final translations offered no reassurance, only the reminder that the past is never as silent as it seems. And as the implications settled in, the question of what to do with these warnings hung in the air, waiting for a new kind of answer. Conclusion: the rise of artificial intelligence in archaeology marks a turning point in how we approach the mysteries of the past. Today, AI's ability to reconstruct lost voices and decode forgotten languages is not just rewriting history. It is narrowing the gap between what was hidden and what is revealed. Ongoing projects continue to extract meaning from India's manuscript vaults and Egypt's hieroglyphs, showing that each new breakthrough brings us closer to knowledge once thought unreachable. If you found this exploration unsettling, let us know in the comments which decoded phrase chilled you the most. As AI chases silence across the ages, we must decide which doors we're ready to open.